Yes, it is.
So difficulty or lack of communication is a red flag. You want to talk about the next one?
Yes, the lack one is inconsistency in their behavior. That could be extreme mood swings. That could be one way. One day you get one version of them. Another day you get another version of them. It could mean that when you're watching them interact with other people, they interact with you in one way, and then they interact with someone else in another way. Their reputation of what they're telling you and what you're seeing is not the same.
You know, we talk about it from the aspect of hot and cold. You may have seen some of the episodes where we talk about hot. We're talking about being honest, open, and transparent,
Yes.
which goes back to communication.
Yes.
And then cold, it stands for closed, obstinate, lazy, and dishonest. So if you find those things, if they're not hot, but you always see them being cold, that is definitely a red flag. So again, that's closed. Closed mean we're talking about they just don't give you anything in exchange and in return. You seem to be always the one inquiring or talking or trying to get to or initiating the connections. Obstinate is just plain old flat out being stubborn.
Yeah.
That's just a fancy way of saying they just stubborn.
Resistance to change.
Yeah, and this is their behavior. When you ever met someone who just say that's just the way I am?
Yeah.
Definitely a red flag. Lazy, you dated at the very beginning and you had good times and maybe some time has gone by, and the next thing you know, those things that you did, they just kind of stopped coming. We were just talking this morning. Renee asked me, what do you like to do for fun? What do you want to do for some fun? And we've been together a lot of years, and I had to sit back and think about it, because the things that I did for fun when we first started dating, I could do, even some of the physical attributes. I'm talking like if we went bowling or rollerblading or bicycling and all those things, or doing some of the more physically demanding things. That was one thing. But as you get a little bit older, it becomes a little bit more challenging for you to do some of the things. So you have to reinvent some of the interests that you have and some of the things that you may want to do. So, but when I say that lazy, that means don't stop doing. That just means change what you're doing. Do new things. Do some other things that you both find mutually interesting, so you can actually have fun and enjoy each other's company. But if you find yourself getting lazy and not even coming up with some things, that's another red flag. So that's actually a bonus red flag. And then flat out dishonesty, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in later in this chat.
Yeah. And so the next one is disrespectful behavior. And so how do you resolve? What do you do when someone is inconsistent in their behavior? The first thing you should do is you should bring it to their attention, because sometimes people do things and they don't realize it. The best thing to do when someone is being inconsistent in their behavior is to just not necessarily call them on the red carpet, just in a non-combative way. It's like, hey, I noticed some shifts in the way you something going on, is there something, ask questions, get to know, because a part of it is showing empathy for the other person and being available to them. And so that's one of the ways you combat that is hey, I'm kind of noticing that there's a lot going, that I see a change in your mood or your temperament. Is there something going on? Is there something I can help you with? Is this working for you? Is this not? Just ask questions, be inquisitive, get the information that you need so that you can make a decision based on facts and not on your fiction or your imagination.
Right, and if that spills over into disrespectful behavior towards the other person, you definitely want to be mindful of, you deserve to be respected, and this goes both ways. If you find that things that you have established as boundaries, however you want to describe them, are being constantly violated or overturned or overlooked, or this person isn't finding themselves trying to even change or even make the effort, that is definitely a red flag that you actually want to always be considering as a disrespect. And now part of it is, now you have to tell them, what do you consider disrespectful?
Yeah, because that could be different. Because for me, a tone, your tone, your volume, all of those can be considered disrespectful. So in the stage of you communicating and getting to know each other, establishing what is a boundary for you, you need to have spent enough time with yourself that you know what is considered disrespectful to you. You need to know that for you. That's not for someone else to set that for you. That's for you to know what is disrespect to you. And it's going to be different for each person.
Now, let me ask you a question. Would you find it disrespectful? Well, I couldn't do it because I notice and I see it. You may see it on television and you may see it in movies or whatever. Or even out in real life where I hear other women or other girls calling each other the B word.
No, that was a no for me.
Is that a disrespectful thing?
Oh, that, you know what?
Even from, not from me,
trigger.
obviously.
That's a trigger for me. Because growing up, my mom was verbally abusive. So being called out of my name, especially the B word, that will bring up the old
How did
nature.
that even come about? Where they start using that word as a one of endearment? You know,
I
talking
have no,
about that.
It's like, to me, everything that's good is bad and bad is good. Our society is kind of really twisted up.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, no, that's a no. And people who know me know that if you want me to be very upset, call me out of my name.
Yeah, that's not something.
That's not okay.
And even from the guy perspective,
And it's not funny to me. It's not cute.
And from a guy's perspective, disrespect to him may be something that's just not a big deal to you. I can give you one as an example. When you belittle or berate a man and call him a boy, I don't know many men that will not find that disrespectful or treat them like a boy.
Yeah.
You treat them like a little boy or talking down to them or just more or less challenging their manhood or saying you act like a child and things like that. You're going to find that, I would say, that is a standard line or standard sign of disrespect that most men will see and want to consider that. They will probably consider that a red flag on you.
Right.
You know, so now this goes both ways.
Oh yeah.
Now
'Cause women can be disrespectful because a part of it is, another way that being disrespectful is not understanding the importance of submission. Submission is not something that has to be earned. It's not something that happens in marriage. Submission is that something that you both should bring to the relationship because of your relationship with God. And so we always go back to that, because at the foundation of all the things that we're talking about and we're, helping you to understand, we are a Christ-centered, biblically based, solution-oriented program, community. That's our beliefs. So that you have to understand that submission is a part of me submitting to God, me submitting to Gil submitting to God, Gil submitting to me, us submitting to each other.
Some things that you can also consider disrespectful is being rude.
Yes.
And being rude is not necessarily, it can be in behavior, it can be in words, it can
Body
be in
language.
actions, and it can be in body language. It can be in it can come a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So when you find yourself, whether you're on the receiving end or the giving end of that, that's something to be mindful, because this is list that we're kind of talking about. We're talking about the 10 signs or 10 warning signs.
Red flags.
Red flags that you are, especially when you're dating, to be aware of. If you find these are constantly coming up, or you're either experiencing them, or you can take some stock inside yourself and say, whoa, I may be doing some of this stuff. This is what this is all designed for.
Yeah.
This is why we put the book out of the
Singles Blueprint for Dating and Marriage.
This is why we put the book out, because while the Bible addresses everything, sometimes you just need it to be made plain and simple a little bit. And some people like lists. Just give them a list and
Let them see it.
Let them see it. It makes it a lot more tangible. It makes it a lot easier for them to actually see. Doesn't mean you have to beholden to the list,
right?
But be aware of the list can definitely be an asset and a benefit to you in the long run. So that was number 3.
Okay,
now,
so sidebar.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we love to watch dating shows, and one of the shows we really love to watch is Love Is Blind.
Okay.
And the next thing I'm going to talk about, we were watching the episode, and I introduced Jackie to Love Is Blind. She never watched it before. She watched her first episode. She was like, "Oh my gosh, it's nothing like what I thought." And so the next one, another one of the red flags is always talking about yourself.
Oh yeah, okay.
And so if I were to say, well, I really don't want people to think of me as being wealthy, and all you talk about is your money. I'm giving you an example of what is talking about yourself. It doesn't just have to be talking about yourself. It can be talking about your accomplishments. It can be talking about your pet. It can be talking about, there's lots of ways you can only talk about yourself. And that's one of the red flags you have to be aware of, because in a relationship, it's not going to just be me, I always say, for me, the people in my life, I'm so grateful for the people in my life, because you can't always be the star. Sometimes you have to be able to play a different role. And so if in relationships, you have to be the one, if in relationships, if you have to always be the star, you have to always be the center of attention, the center of the conversation, you have to lead the conversation. If someone else says something, you got to one up them. That is a red flag that you don't have room in your life for someone else.